Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. This is Paramita and I welcome you to my channel Paramita PM. If you are new to my channel, then I would request you to visit my page, go through the content, and if you really find my lectures helpful, then do like it, share it, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. And please remember that you should always turn on the notification button so that you do not miss any update. So now, without any further ado, let's get into the lecture. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Paramita, and today in this video I shall be looking at the different types of intertextuality. Before I begin to explain the three types of intertextuality, I will provide you with a brief definition of intertextuality. Intertextuality is basically a literary device that helps us in shaping the meaning of a text by using another text. It creates or it helps in establishing an interrelationship between texts, and that is achieved through the use of several intertextual figures that include allusion, parody, cluck, plagiarism, parody, pastiche, and quotation, and so on. Now, these references influence the reader and help him to add layers of depth to a text. And here it should be noted that it is entirely based on the reader's prior knowledge and understanding. It is not possible for a reader to understand or to reach a complete understanding of a text without this prior knowledge and understanding on his part, because if he doesn't have any knowledge with regard to the text that has been employed by the writer in the present text, then he would not be able to establish connections, he would not be able to make connections between the two texts. So therefore, we find that as far as intertextuality is concerned, it makes an author borrow and transform a prior text. And what a reader does is, a reader makes a reference to one text in reading another text. So we have three types of intertextuality. One is obligatory, the second one is optional, and the last one is accidental. Now, before I begin to explain each of them in detail, it would be better to know that the variations that we can see here in terms of the three divisions of intertextuality, these variations depend on two major factors. The first major factor being the intention of the writer, and the second one being the significance of the reference. So depending on with what intention the author is writing a text, he would choose any one of them, as well as depending on the significance of the reference. If the author finds that a particular reference is indispensable to the understanding of a text, then it would definitely, have obligatory intertextuality, because it would be an obligation now on the part of the reader to detect that particular reference. And if he feels that it can be done away with, so if the writer or if the reader is able to identify a text, or fails to identify a text but it wouldn't affect much his understanding of the text, then it can be considered optional. So that can be considered to be, an optional intertextuality, because it is not mandatory for a reader to make that intertextual connection. And the last one is accidental, which by chance or all of a sudden the writer, makes a connection, or is able to make a connection between two texts, or between a text or a culture, or maybe his or her personal experiences. So basically, these are the three main types of intertextuality. What is obligatory intertextuality? Obligatory intertextuality occurs when a writer deliberately draws a comparison or association between two or more texts without a prior knowledge of the text or without the ability to grasp or to identify the intertextual connection. It is not possible for a reader to reach a complete understanding of the text. So, a full comprehension of the text can be achieved by the reader only through his prior knowledge of the texts or the references that are referred to by the writer. So, it completely relies on the reading or understanding of a prior hypotext, which means that if the reader does not have any idea, does not have any knowledge with regard to the references that are employed in the text at hand, then he would never be able to arrive at a complete understanding of the text. So, therefore, here in case of obligatory intertextuality, the reader plays a very important role. The understanding of the hypertext, therefore, can help arrive at a deeper understanding of the text at hand, which is very true. Because, like I said, if the reader does not have any clue, if the reader does not have any prior knowledge about the references or about the texts that have been employed by the writer, then he would fail to establish intertextual connections between the two. He would not be able to relate the content of one text to the other. So, therefore, it becomes an obligation on the part of the reader to have this prior knowledge. So, this is what we mean by obligatory intertextuality. In this connection, it would be wise to refer to the novel Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. It would never be possible for a reader to understand the novel Frankenstein, to understand the relationship between the creator and the creation. It would not be possible for a reader to understand the plight of the monster unless one has the knowledge or unless one has the prior knowledge of the story of creation. Like, what kind of relation does God have with his creations, like Adam and Eve? Why did God punish Satan? How did God treat Satan, and how did God treat his creations, Adam, his first creations, Adam and Eve? So, in order to understand the relationship, or in order to understand the complexities that are involved in the relationship between Victor Frankenstein as a creator and the monster as his creation, it is completely obligatory, it is mandatory for a reader to know the story of creation. So we can use this is one of the examples of obligatory intertextuality. Optional intertextuality. From the name itself, we can understand that this type of intertextuality is optional. A reader may be able to establish an intertextual connection or may not be able to establish an interconnection between two texts. Therefore, it is a possible intertextual relationship and not an essential one. So, like I said, that if the reader is able to detect it, if the reader somehow is able to establish an interconnection, then it would only slightly affect or change the understanding of the text. But it wouldn't be, but this kind of intertextual connection is not at all indispensable to the understanding of a text, and that is why it is considered optional. In fact, it can be said that this optional intertextuality impacts very little, or it has a very little impact on the significance of the text at hand. as far as the writer is concerned, if you look at the intention of the writer, then we can say that when the writer uses optional intertextuality, his intention is only, to pay homage to the original writer. So maybe he refers to an author in order to pay him some honor, in order to pay him some respect. But even if the reader fails to identify who that author is or how he is paid homage, it wouldn't affect the understanding of the text. So like I said, it is therefore optional. The reading of the hypertext is not at all necessary. Like in case of obligatory intertextuality, it is necessary for a reader to have prior knowledge of the hypertext in order to understand the present text or the hypertext. But in case of optional intertextuality, it doesn't matter whether the reader is able to find a connection to multiple texts or he doesn't find any connection at all. And that is why this type is named as optional intertextuality. Accidental intertextuality. What do we mean by accidental intertextuality? Accidental intertextual connections occur when a reader connects a text with another text suddenly, or he is able to establish a connection between a text and a cultural practice or a personal experience. Although none of these have been included or none of these have been incorporated in the text, in the original text by the author. That is why it is considered to be accidental. Why? Because as far as the reader is concerned, it entirely depends on him. It entirely depends on him whether any intertextual connection would be established or not. Because, like I said, the author has no intention of making any intertextual reference in case of accidental intertextuality. So, in case of accidental intertextuality, we can see that it is the reader who all of a sudden, or maybe sometimes, a reader connects a text with another text, but no such thing, no such reference is made in the original text by the author. So this type of intertextual connection which accidentally takes place and for which only the reader is responsible, and the author doesn't intend to make any intertextual reference, is considered to be accidental intertextuality, and it entirely depends upon the reader's own prior knowledge, because it is with the help of this prior knowledge that such connections are made. For example, if while reading a book or maybe while watching a movie, the reader's memory is all of a sudden, triggered. Okay, and maybe while reading a book, a reader may use his, prior experiences to make a connection between a character and something else, and is able to draw a deep connection or is able to establish a relevant, relationship between the two texts, then it can be considered to be an accidental intertextuality, because when we read the text, we find that no such references or no such intertextual references have been made by the author. So it is entirely to the credit of the reader that such accidental intertextual connections take place. So with this, I come to the end of this lecture. I hope this video was of some help to you. If you find the lecture helpful and comprehensible, then do like it, share it, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Until then, bye-bye.